everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Recruitment Roundup podcast, which is brought to you by BMS Performance. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, BMS Performance is a specialist sales and marketing recruitment consultancy. For the last 30 years, we've been helping businesses across the UK recruit for vacancies at every level. How's it going, Sam? All good?
Hey, all good, Mike. All good. Been looking forward to catching up with you after the back of last episode. How's everything been with you?
It's a good one. Yeah, it's all good, isn't it? It's just mental in the world of recruitment, but looking forward to taking time out to get stuck into this subject. A bit of a quick fire episode from us today, but hopefully packed full of value, isn't it? We wanted to talk about a specific example where we're working with a business this week, and they've worked with us really, really well to lay out what is a pretty good watertight interview process. So we wanted to use this episode to walk through that process, talk about why it's beneficial to the client, why it's beneficial to candidates, and fundamentally should help the client get the outcome that they want, which is filling the role with a great candidate in a short space of time. And hopefully going through it can spark some interest and some ideas for the audience and listeners who might be struggling a bit with their interview processes. So if this is you, this is your who it's aimed at. So why don't we kick off, Sam? So do you want to give a bit of an overview as to what the situation was?
100%, Mike. I'm really excited to speak about this one because I know obviously we've had previous episodes where we've spoken about probably recruitment processes that haven't really hit the brief and hit the mark. And, nothing is more frustrating, not just for us as recruiters, but equally for candidates, really, when they, are engaged within a role that they've seen online and they're particularly interested and excited, chomping at the bit, really, to get involved. So, really excited to speak about this one because, this is probably, I would describe this as, bang on probably the perfect recruitment process, and I don't use that word lightly, but just to give everyone an overview as to obviously how we got here and how we got into this position. So the client in question is a business that we've built a really good relationship with as BMS Performance going back the past a couple of years. They are obviously a leading company within their field, a company that's done really well, and it's an exciting time for them. They're in the process of, expansion. Looking to bring in, a new area sales manager covering the Southeast, and they've got some exciting products at this time as well. So it's a really, really good time to be joining the business. And we had a really good call once I was notified of the vacancy from them. And what's been really key for them is firstly to create a recruitment process which creates an environment for them to ultimately see the best talent on the market. And that is, both active and passive talent, to create an environment that gives them the opportunity to do that, but also an opportunity to get their role prioritized, compared to other roles that might be within the market that they're operating in, and also to create a recruitment process that can allow them to ultimately fill the job in a quick amount of time, really. So it's been a measure up of those three processes.
Yeah. So what does the actual recruitment process look like?
Great question. So we'll go straight into it. So in terms of the interview process, what it looks like firstly is a guaranteed interview date for first stage interviews. This is a dedicated date within the next sort of 5-6 working days, where they have given, us as a recruiter for them priority and unlimited access to schedule in a list of first stage interviews that ultimately fit the brief that they are looking for as we see fit. You with me so far, Mike?
Yeah. So what they've done, and correct me if I'm wrong, they've said to you, Sam, we trust your understanding of our 100%. Brief, and we trust the assessment of your candidates. Here's a couple of dates and time slots next week.
Exactly.
Book your best people in.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, so let's sit on this, because that type of interview process and way of working with recruiters might be quite alien to a lot of businesses who want to see CVs first, because quite rightly they want to feel like the people that they're seeing are worth seeing, and their time is precious. But so for this particular company that you're working with, why did they want to run the first interview process like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike. And I think there's two things that probably stand out to me the most. The first thing is, in terms of this brief that they're looking for qualities that are essentially soft skills. These are things that
can't see them on the CV.
You can't see them on the CV, right, Mike? So we're looking for people that, firstly, are very driven people that have got a great personality, people that are hardworking, things that you ultimately can't identify when you look at a CV, because how can you go through that? If I was to send you 5 CVs,
how can you tell if someone's hardworking from a CV?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you?
I know I can't, so that's the first thing. We're looking for soft skills, and then the second thing is ultimately they want to recruit the right person, but also in a quick amount of time. So what that is it's also trusting the recruiter that you're working with, so they are essentially allowing us and trusting us to represent them on the back of the information that they're giving us and saying, this is the role, this is a brief, do you understand it? Yes, you help us find this person, and let's create an environment so that we could, complete this in a 3-4 week period, as an example.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think when I've worked with clients that adopt this type of interview process as well, just to dovetail on the back of some of the things that you've said, is a byproduct of this means that they are able to access top tier talent quicker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why does that happen? Because if you're a really good candidate, and you are working with a couple of different recruitment partners and you are applying for adverts yourself, the recruiter that comes to you and says, got this company, they're absolutely superb, they are exactly what you're looking for, I can book you an interview straight away, and you say yes to that, then that's that candidate's time booked up. It's gone. It means they can't go to another interview unless they cancel. But let's work on the basis that the candidates aren't cancelling these interviews. Then that candidate goes through this first stage interview. The second interview is within a week after of that.
Correct.
At this stage, the other companies that the candidate is exploring come back to them and say, well, I'd like to see you for a first interview later on this week. That candidate's already got this second interview to prep for. Exactly. And what they think is, well, I'm really sold on this now. And I've already invested loads of time. So I'm just going to hold off confirming those interviews
until I've
seen this out. So because that client has worked in this way, they've been able to move with the market. At the pace of the market, and have been able to access top tier talent, opposed to working in the other way, which is let's see a CV, let's review it, and we'll go back to recruit in 3-4 days. By that time, the candidate is already in with other processes.
Mike, that's such a good point. And I would argue that they're probably setting the pace of the market by being proactive, right? So in terms of the actual process itself, they've allowed us the opportunity to see the best people that we have based on the soft skills, based on the brief that they're looking for. As a follow-up on this, they've also successfully booked in a follow-up day within the diary the next working day at 9 o'clock in the morning to go through the feedback from the interviews that took place 24 hours ago. So I, as a recruiter, already know that I'm going to have feedback to share with these candidates, and I can let them know while we're still screening them for this role that, you're going to find out the feedback the next working day, which is the following day. And on top of that, they've also booked in 2 potential dates for the final interview, which is the following week, either the Thursday or the Friday, as to complete the process. And, following the success of that, the interview process should be complete and the job should be filled.
Within how long would that be? Sorry, how long would the period?
So if we think about when the brief, if we think about when I took this brief, we're talking 3.5 weeks, if that. So we're talking, Friday last week. So 1, 2, it's actually 3 weeks, 3 full weeks, 15
from
working
taking
days.
taking the brief to the job being filled.
100%.
And what's the gap between the first and the second interview stages?
It's a week.
It's
a week, and that's only purely just separated by the fact that it's the weekend comes
which
in,
is perfect, isn't it?
Which is perfect.
And how was the interview format look from the first stage to the second stage? I.e., is it Teams? Is it face to face? What's that look like?
Mike. So the interview format is Teams at first stage, to allow them the opportunity to access as much of the talent as possible, to not create that face-to-face at first stage, to gain as much commitment, to see the best people within their market within that time. So it's a Teams first stage, and then the final stage is a face-to-face interview at their head office in the south.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it makes sense. I think Teams is so important for a first stage, isn't it? It's just so important because you're making the candidate the interview process candidate friendly, accessible, and you're giving yourself an opportunity to see more people as well, which is 100%,
key. 100%. And I think we're starting to see now, sort of coming out of COVID and the pandemic, and obviously moving forward, companies ideally looking to flip it round. But the beauty of Teams, especially at first stage, is it's creating an opportunity for you as an employer, the opportunity to ultimately access as much of the talent as possible, and then make your decision on the back of that. So, it's a real good process.
Yeah, I think with Teams, what it provides as a benefit over what can sometimes be seen as a negative, in the sense the negative being, don't get that body language. Don't really see the true whites of their eyes. But on the flip side of it, on the positive side, it does, I think, in the majority of cases, start the candidate experience off in a really good place.
Correct.
Because fundamentally, as a hiring manager or a company that's hiring an employer, you've got a duty of care to make sure that you're getting candidates bought in, and that's key, because people take jobs because it's a step forward in the right direction career wise, maybe it's more money, but because they're bought in emotionally to the company. And I think this is a key piece of recruitment that sometimes companies either get or they don't, when they make the process too stringent, or say it has to be face to face first stage, or we're not going to arrange any interviews until we've seen everyone's CVs or whatever. It takes away from that candidate friendly feel, and if they're not bought in and they're not emotionally connected to you to a point, then that's how you lose people. And I think what this company have done really well is they've understood that. They've created a really candidate friendly process. Whether you like this or not, it's totally true. The companies that recruit the best recruit the fastest. Been in recruitment for over 10 years. It's never changed. It won't change. It's not always the case, but the companies that recruit the most successfully, 9 times out of 10, they are the ones that can get through the process the quickest. They've got a 2-stage process. They get an offer out quickly. They're good with the communication after the offer, and they got the candidate onboarded well. So what this company have done is they've got the process nice and streamlined, giving themselves an opportunity to see as much of the market as possible. First stage by Teams to get the buy-in. Second stage, face to face. What are they? Okay, so Sam, you said at the beginning of the episode about working in this way, helping this particular company to get their job prioritized in what is the internal market within BMS, and whether or not you're an internal talent acquisition specialist or you're a sales director, a business leader, and you're using a recruiter. Trust me, the internal market within that recruiter absolutely exists, and if you're working on a contingent basis, there is a way that the recruiter will prioritize when and how they work on your vacancy. That is just a fact. Talk to your recruiter about that if you want more information. We gladly discuss it with our clients, and it's really important that we're transparent with it. So Sam, if you could talk around how working in this way will help this client get their vacancy prioritised, and that'll be a really good place to start to finish off with.
Yeah, Mike, that's such a great point, and I really like the fact that you've, led on working within a contingent way, right?
Yeah.
And this is the example in question, and it's important for us to be, transparent with our audience, right? Within any within any business, we've also got KPIs and metrics and ways of working to ultimately create an environment that would allow us as a business to succeed, but also to allow the clients that we work with the best form of service. So within any contingent recruitment agency, there are certain metrics that they use, and any company that wouldn't tell you that, they wouldn't be being transparent and honest with you, right?
Yeah.
So the real economy that we work through and what we work to is ultimately commitment. And commitment is the highest form of economy, money aside, within recruitment. So what do I mean by commitment? By commitment, I mean, firstly, interview dates, right?
Yeah.
And so interview dates, feedback as a feedback call, again, that is a sign of commitment. Second, interview dates as a sign of commitment, feedback, and a start date to work towards. So by having all these things on the front end when discussing the brief with the clients in question or within any organization that we're working with, that ultimately puts your role right the way through to the top of the list. So any contingent recruiter would be working on an esteemed amount of roles at any given time. So give an example. Let's say if an organization has 50 live vacancies, and if they've got a vacancy which is live where we've got confirmed interview dates, we've got confirmed feedback dates, we've got a confirmed second interview date, we've got a confirmed start date, all of that is set in stone, that role will take priority compared to other roles where we'll come back to you when we've seen the CV that we'll like. We'll come back to you when we're planning on, potentially interviewing people. We'll let you know as to when that second interview will be, right? So to answer your question, Mike, is that's how this role automatically becomes, a hot job as an internal term, or as a key focus area for us as a business, because by the client looking to meet us in the middle and really be committed to working with us, we will match that and do that for them.
Yeah, it's about mitigating risk, isn't it? For
100%.
the recruitment consultancy working on a contingent basis, and we say contingent here rather than exclusive or retained, because contingent is for the recruitment consultancy where they carry the highest risk. Because generally it's no win, no fee. The recruiter will either invoice on the contract sign date or on start date. Everything they do up until that point is free. So the client can decide to recruit through someone else. They can decide to put the role on hold. They can take an internal applicant on. But the recruiter is happy to play that. Is happy to play that game, because that's the contingent way of working. But the more the recruitment consultancy can lower the risk lever and mitigate the risk, the higher their chances of filling the vacancy. The more focus and privacy they're going to put on the job, is what we're saying, aren't we? So but you covered it. You covered it excellently, and I just think it's really important to get that point across in the context of this conversation.
Of course, 100%. So any client coming to market, you know that commitment is king. That's the economy that you have, really. So by providing this to your preferred supplier, anyone that you'll be working with, you're going to ensure that you're going to get the highest level of service, and your role will ultimately hopefully be filled in the quickest amount of time. So I hope that's summed up pretty well.
Just to finish off with as well, within these interviews, what are they looking for at first stage, and how are they typically engaging candidates? I think that'd be quite good information for some of the listeners to hear, in the sense of what are they going through in the interviews, what's the format look like, and then how does that look at second stage as well, just as 2 points to finish on.
Yeah, Mike, it's a great question. So in terms of that first stage, in terms of what they're looking for from candidates, is ideally, a good level of research, looking into them as a business, right? So they are obviously going to be asking them questions regarding, what do you know about us as an organization, what you understand about the role, what experience do you feel that you have is relevant within to do the actual job, and then we're looking for evidence of success really. So competency-based questions will be asked as well as part of the interview process to look at previous examples, relevant examples of, when candidates have gone through, different scenarios that have been challenging, that have required, some application of some sort, that things that they may have done above and beyond. And then they're also then looking for thought from that candidate in question regarding, what are they thinking of the role? What are they looking for within their next opportunity? What do they have a real good understanding of? What targets and KPIs that they'll be working towards. So communication, engagement, asking questions, a two-way process, making sure that the role is right for the candidate, but equally making sure that the candidate is right for them. It's pretty, I'd say fairly informal at that first stage, providing that those answers
sounds really collaborative.
Yeah, collaborative
as a process. Which is key, isn't it?
Which is really key. So asking as many open-ended questions to make sure that everyone's singing off the right EM sheet, to make sure the company's happy, the candidate's happy, provided that those answers all marry up, then you would hope to pretty much move forward to the final stage of the process. And in terms of the final stage of that process, it will no doubtedly involve a presentation, which will either the brief is to be confirmed in terms of what that presentation will be, but it's sort of right now between something that they're ideally passionate about, just to see how these candidates present, or a 30, 60, 90 in terms of what they expect, when joining the business, really. And that's pretty much the interview process, and hopefully we're filling this role
straightforward. Yeah, straightforward. Sounds good. We could maybe do a future episode on different second interview subjects, presentation subjects, etc. That's quite an interesting one to say. And I do like what you're passionate about, present on that, because it really gives you a sense of that person outside the workplace, what's important to them, what drives them. But this is a whole episode in itself. But no, that was a great episode, Sam. Really pleased that we covered that. Relatively short and sweet compared to our previous episodes, but nonetheless, there's a lot of value in there. Hopefully people got that from the conversation. So thank you for your example.
Cheers,
really
Mike.
Really good one.
No, really good, and I really appreciate your time. Thanks again. Looking forward to feeding back to the conglomerate after this, and hopefully having filled the role in a few weeks. But it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Great. Thanks everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.